I was raised in Berkeley, California by my mother and father. My father is Middle Eastern, he comes from Kuwait, and my mother is from Berkeley, California as well. They met when they were about 17. My dad immigrated to the United States when he was 19. They had me when they were about 30 years old, so I am Palestinian, Sudanian, and Caucasian. This class really showed me how a lot of people are oppressed, and not just me. I mean, you know, Middle Eastern people are oppressed to this day. They're oppressed right now, all in the media, it's all over TV. And it shows me that even back in the day, people of Latino descent were discriminated on and still are discriminated on. It just shows me that everybody's working with it together to try and bring equality throughout the United States and in the world. You know, we want a better place because nobody wants to be discriminated on, and it happens. Like the Zusu riots, they discriminated on the Latinos for their culture, for being there, and it wasn't even their fault. It's the same here. Like I didn't do anything to be discriminated on. I was just born, you know. That's how I feel about it.
All I remember most about this class is basically what the women had to go through back in the day. I couldn't believe that white men were just so willing to rape and expose and hurt these women for basically just walking down the street. As you all may not know, I am half Mexican. My mom is 100% Mexican and my dad is 100% white. And just thinking about what her past generations have probably had to go through with that is just mind-boggling to me. And it makes me realize that discrimination really has never ended with her, because when she moved here from Mexico, she tried so hard to get rid of her accent. She tried so hard to fit in with, obviously, everyone around her who was white. And when she married my dad and she had my brother and my sister and I, we didn't learn how to speak Spanish because it wasn't right back then. But now, since it is more willing and more open to be accepted as a Mexican, everyone wished that we had learned, and I know I wished I had. But really with this course, it really taught me to be proud of that I am half Mexican, and to really just, you know, be proud of what my past generations have gone through.
I grew up in a small farm town in Northern California where the community consisted of a lot of white and Mexican people, and it was never really a thing to discriminate on anyone. It was a small town, so everyone knew each other and got along very well. So when I came down to Los Angeles, it kind of opened my eyes to a world that I wasn't really familiar with. And so when I came down to LA and took a Chicano Studies class, which I'm doing this video for, it really opened my eyes that people have been discriminated against, especially Mexicans. And through the history of the United States and to even now, it's really rather kind of sad. And I mean, I guess I can relate to them being redhead, and it's probably not as bad, but I get called ginger, carrot top, fireballs, everything you can think of. I mean, I see why they would be angry, and I definitely want to see some change.
As a child, I grew up in a more predominantly white area, but when I went to elementary school, I went to a school called El Marino, which is a Spanish immersion school, which was in a sense of all the classes were taught in Spanish except for one English class. And it was really different for me, especially because I was like one of the only white people in the school. And after school, it was really different because I would go home with my best friend at the time named Jose, and I would go living at his house until my dad could come pick me up. And I lived with him basically all through elementary school, going to his house after school, and I learned a lot of like the Hispanic culture and like the different types of foods, and I enhanced like my Spanish speaking skills living with him because his family only spoke Spanish. What was really different for me was like the different culture like aspect, and this class really taught me like the different types of like art that I would see in there. And also what stood out the most was the zoot suit riots, because I was always told that the sailors had more of the problems, but after seeing everything, like it was the zoot suits who was innerly basically getting like tormented and had no really problems. But throughout this class I've learned a lot, and it's been great.
My older sister is actually half Mexican, and it was really interesting for me watching her grow up with part of her culture and her struggle with her identity. Her biological father, who is Mexican, was never really around, and because of that, she took her hatred out on her culture, and so she never was really a part of the Mexican side of her and didn't visit the family and didn't want to embrace any of it, and she really struggled with it. A few years back, she won Rose Queen for the Tournament of Roses. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's part of Pasadena. And once receiving the crown, the Mexican community really backed behind her and was really excited for her, and didn't care that she was half white and half Mexican. They embraced and loved the Mexican side of her and was proud of her accomplishments. And through that, she really began to love her culture too and was able to connect with it more. That was just really amazing for me to see that transformation with my sister and see how she went from hating being Mexican to understanding and loving it more. The thing that I learned about this class that I loved the most was learning about Aztlan, and you talking about how the Mexican people longed for this to come back, this world where we live off of the earth and the earth provides everything that we need and we only take what we need, and that if we return to this, peace will be, cover the whole earth and that everything will be better. And this was really interesting for me to learn about because I grew up really loving nature. Every family vacation that we did was out in Yosemite or camping anywhere we could find, and so I grew up loving nature and really learning to respect it and to use only what I needed. And to hear this story about the ancient native people living on this land and it being taken from them was really sad for me, because that's something myself I wish that we could return to. It's just loving the earth and only taking what we need and respecting it.
Pero tú nunca quisiste. Ni caricias, ni besos quisiste de mí. Y de celos me estaba muriendo por ti. De rodillas, amor, te imploré. Llorar